I decided to track down my ex, whom I had just split with a week earlier, hoping to patch things up. As I shoved the door open, I caught him locking lips with a girl. And get this, the girl was rocking my pajamas. Turns out she was none other than my college roommate of 4 years. Just last night in the dorm, my roomie casually dropped that she might be moving out. She'd been chasing this guy for ages, and he finally accepted her feelings and asked her to move in. At the time, I foolishly congratulated her for her wish coming true. Little did I imagine that her new boyfriend would be my ex, Simon, whom I had just broken up with. I awkwardly stood by the doorway. When my roommate spotted me, she shouted, "Hey, Melody!" Simon glanced over too. When our eyes met, he looked a bit stunned, but mostly indifferent and cool. He then fixed his outfit and calmly approached me, looking down. "What are you doing here?" I focused on the marks on his collarbone, struggling to breathe. I couldn't even muster a word about getting back together. My roommate stepped closer, a bit apologetic, and gave a hesitant grin. "I didn't have any clothes with me, so I borrowed yours. Sorry about that." My head was spinning. Seeing me silent, she quickly added, "Melody, please don't get it twisted. I only got together with Simon after you two broke up." Watching her rush to clarify, I felt like an idiot. It took me a moment to come up with a stiff excuse to answer Simon's question. "My stuff is still here, so I came to pack up." After a brief pause, Simon, still emotionless, said, "Come in." Only after stepping inside did I realize what his silence was saying. The potted plant I had planted on the windowsill was gone. The couple's water cups and toothbrush in the bathroom had been swapped for different styles. The curtains, bed sheets, everything was changed to my roommate's favorite colors. Even the old childhood photo of Simon and me in the bedroom had been replaced with one of my roommate and him. There was nothing left for me to pack. The cozy space Simon and I had once decorated was now completely her domain. Just a week apart, and everything was different. All my things were shoved into a suitcase, left alone in a corner of the balcony, including my dog. The scorching summer night breeze was intense, making it hard to breathe. I sat numb on the messy balcony, staring blankly at Seven. Seven was the dog Simon and I had met on our first date. Since it was the 7th day, Simon named him Seven. That day, Simon hugged me and whispered that every time I called Seven, he'd remember our first kiss. But now, everything had changed. "Seven!" I called. Seven perked up his ears, recognizing me, and excitedly whimpered, wanting to snuggle like before. Realizing he was confined, Seven obediently sat down, wagging his tail nonstop at me. My nose tingled uncontrollably with emotions, and I rushed to the living room. Everything else didn't matter, but Seven had been abused before and was scared of being confined. "You know," Simon interrupted. Glancing at my roommate beside him, his tone flat, "She's scared of dogs." The rest of his words got stuck in my throat. "She's afraid of dogs." A dull ache spread through me. The first sign that something was off between Simon and my roommate was 2 months ago. As graduation neared, he got several awesome job offers and got super busy. Sometimes when I texted him at night, he wouldn't reply until the next morning. When I called, he'd hang up after a few words. He was just too busy. Stop overthinking, I told myself. My roommate tried to cheer me up when she noticed I was down. On Valentine's Day, she gave me 2 movie tickets. Wanting to fix the weird vibe between Simon and me, I asked him to go to the movies. Halfway through the movie, he seemed distracted, glancing at his phone now and then. "I need to take a call outside. I'll be right back." Before I could say anything, he rushed out with his coat. When the movie ended, Simon still hadn't come back. After the movie, I saw Simon leaning against a wall in the crowd, waiting for me. He was looking down, lost in his thoughts. I noticed he was carefully buttoning up the top buttons of his shirt. Seeing me, Simon just calmly said, "We were talking about the project and lost track of time." "What project needs a whole movie's length to discuss?" I asked. How did he respond then? He didn't even bother explaining. If you want to overthink, I can't help it. Back in the dorm, while flipping through my phone restlessly, I stumbled upon a recent social media post by my roommate. It was a pic of 2 half-drunk milk teas and 2 movie ticket stubs. No caption, just a heart emoji. The dorm was dead quiet, with only our shallow breaths. "Did you get those at the theater next to the hall where I live?" I'm not into rom-coms, but watching them with someone you like. My roommate stayed silent for a while, then suddenly grinned. Yeah. That night during our evening walk, I walked ahead in silence. Simon picked up on my mood, came over, and took my hand. What's up? I could only say. Tiffany was also at that cinema. The air went quiet, but only for a sec. Simon held my hand tightly. Melody, it's just a coincidence. Looking into his eyes, filled with calmness and regret, I couldn't let go of his hand. After years together, Simon and I had seen each other as the only choice for a future. I shouldn't have doubted his feelings based on assumptions. Plus, my roommate actually liked someone for a long time. I'd seen the photos. For her, she hadn't had a boyfriend in her entire 4 years of college. There shouldn't be anything going on between her and Simon. At least, I hope not. Whether it was my imagination or not, after that day, Simon became a lot more distant. As the thesis defense approached, he got busier, and we hadn't seen each other for almost a week. It was his birthday when I prepared a gift, grabbed a homemade cake, and went to his rented place to find him. When I pushed the door open, he was throwing a lively cake-eating party with a big group. His roommate was there too, almost entirely wrapped in Simon's embrace, her hand on his as they both held the cake cutter. The room oddly quieted for a moment when they saw me. Simon, expressionless, kept his hand there and didn't move. It was his roommate who pulled her hand away, staring at me with a complicated look. Soon someone stepped in to explain it was also Tiffany's birthday today, so they were just sharing cake and not to misunderstand. How could I not misunderstand? All the grudges and unease from these days turned real the moment I saw their weird actions. After the guests left, Simon and I had a huge fight. Or maybe I just had a hysterical outburst. I'm your girlfriend. Why didn't you tell me about your birthday party? Are you that busy? You can have cake with her, but you can't even spare a moment to reply to my messages. I was on the verge of breaking down. Simon, do you still want to be with me? But it was the same old silence. I leaned against a chair, slowly squatting down, burying my face in my knees, crying quietly. I will tell you everything. Once I graduate, I will marry you, Simon used to say, never letting me worry. But that day, he was speechless. In a fit of impulse, I brought up breaking up. Upon hearing it, Simon coldly replied, "Whatever, suit yourself." It was the 5th day after we broke up, when one of Simon's friends came over to mediate, claiming it was a surprise birthday party for Simon, and he had no prior knowledge of it. Melody, he was at fault, but during his busy thesis period, don't you think you're relying on him too much? His friend said. Even the roommate seemed helpless. Melody, I have someone I like. You've seen the photos. Simon is your boyfriend. How could I compete with you? Their words made me ponder for a long time, wondering if I was too demanding and impulsive. I decided to talk to Simon and sort things out. However, what I saw was that scene. It had been only a week since we broke up, and he eagerly accepted my roommate's confession. That night, I had to take Seven away since pets weren't allowed in the dorm. I temporarily left him at my parents' house. Snuggled in bed that night, my mind was filled with images of them kissing, even involuntarily imagining more intimate scenes. My scalp felt tight, and my heart was incredibly uneasy. So I went online and answered a question from someone with similar experiences, pouring out all my grievances and sadness. I didn't expect that post to blow up overnight. The notifications hit over 99. Why did he agree to the breakup so quickly? There couldn't have been a smooth transition in such a short time. He just gave the other woman a solid excuse. With the details I mentioned, like the school location and specific features, internet sleuths pinpointed us, even identifying me and Tiffany. The post quickly gained traction, with many alumni joining the discussion. Tiffany looks so innocent, who would have thought she was a homewrecker? I knew the blogger's boyfriend, a handsome guy from the math department with a pleasant voice. Only I noticed the blogger mentioned the movie where the guy quickly buttoned up his shirt. What was he trying to hide? Reading more and more comments, I couldn't describe the feelings. My phone buzzed with numerous missed calls and messages, all from Simon. I decided to turn off my phone and head downstairs to grab some food. As I saw Simon standing downstairs, he approached me immediately and coldly ordered, "Delete the post." Thinking about the comments I'd read online, I couldn't help but ask him, "When did you two start getting involved? Was it during that movie or even before?" Simon stared at me expressionlessly, not giving a direct answer but not denying it either. Suddenly realizing I felt like laughing at myself and at him. If you don't like me anymore, you could have just told me. I wouldn't have dwelled on it. Why drag it out? I reiterated, letting things continue like this won't benefit you in any way. Delete the post. His tone carried a chilly warning, showing his patience was running out. I silently looked at him, a hint of revelation in my eyes. Was this the same Simon I knew? The Simon who used to protect me, who had now lost even the patience to hear me out? The one he was protecting wasn't me anymore. The sense of desolation and bitterness was overwhelming, barely bearable. Finally, I whispered, "I won't delete it," and fled. Later that night, I went downstairs to get some takeout, feeling like people were whispering and giving me strange looks. Two wrongs don't make a right. They were both not good people. They must be craving attention and fame. Suddenly, an ominous feeling crept in. When I went back upstairs and checked my phone, I saw an anonymous reply to my answer with a concrete accusation. Half a year ago, someone was already cheating behind their boyfriend's back and going out with other guys. There were lengthy paragraphs detailing how I sneaked around with others back then, and now falsely blaming my boyfriend and roommate. What hit harder was the picture included. In the photo, I was seen with a tall and slender guy at a hotel entrance. I was holding his arm, and his hand was on my waist in a very suggestive pose. The lights were dim, and I could barely see the guy looking down at me. It was definitely not Simon. My response must have caused quite a stir, rapidly attracting attention. Some netizens immediately turned against me, throwing the same accusations they had towards Tiffany at me, even harsher this time. Suddenly, a comment popped to the top. "Isn't this guy from the neighboring university, Jason?" There were several top-rated replies below. No way. How could Jason be interested in her? Jason seems to have a girlfriend. So, Melody is a homewrecker too. I restrained my anger and called my roommate. "Did you post that reply?" My roommate chuckled on the other end. "So what if I did?" "Melody, you started it. I was just responding." I was about to say more when suddenly I heard a gasp from her end. On the phone, my roommate scoffed, sounding a bit flustered. Simon's voice came through, sounding casual. "What's there to talk about with her?" Then there was silence on the other end, but I could clearly hear the heavy breathing of two people and even the faint sound of a zipper. I quickly hung up. My hand holding the phone trembled uncontrollably. Coming back to my senses, I belatedly messaged someone from my contacts list. "I'm sorry for dragging you into this. I will handle this properly. I'm truly sorry." After a few minutes, I received a reply. "It's okay." Just 2 short words, which slightly eased me. To be honest, I'm not that close to Jason. This whole mess was pretty unfair to him. Jason is a friend of my cousin. Half a year ago, my cousin brought him over to hang out at my place, and I helped them book a hotel. At that time, I was texting and almost got hit by a passing car, but luckily Jason pulled me aside. My roommate was there that day too. She must have taken the photo. I felt the world was really strange. Even though I, my cousin, and Jason all explained and provided the hotel booking details from back then, the netizens seemed unwilling to listen. Maybe they didn't want the truth, but more gossip, and a winner and loser. My life was somewhat affected, and I became the subject of gossip at school. Just then, my roommate messaged me, saying she wanted to talk in person. My cousin, knowing I'm soft-hearted and might struggle handling it alone, offered to come with me, but I declined. We met at a coffee shop. When I arrived, both of them were already waiting. "Melody is here." I ignored my roommate and walked over silently to sit down. I could feel a cold gaze on my face, but I looked straight at my roommate. "What do you want to talk about?" "Talk." My roommate chuckled, covering her mouth with a bit of a theatrical smile. "You don't have the right to set conditions for talking to me." I laughed out of anger. "Tiffany, your so-called crush is Simon, right? You've been lying to me about someone else." "Yes." She admitted it quite frankly. "I fell for Simon at first sight." I clenched my fists. "Was he with you in that hall at the movies?" "No." I was a bit stunned. "We went there together." She emphasized each word. "The restroom?" "That's enough." I quickly cut her off, not wanting to hear any more disgusting details. even though I had guessed earlier. Having it confirmed at that moment was still heartbreaking. "I'm sorry for this," she said, but I heard no hint of remorse in her voice. "I can delete the reply about you and Jason, but you must delete your response and publicly apologize to me." "No way!" I trembled with rage. Suddenly, my roommate placed a stack of photos on the table. Deleting the reply is out of the question, let alone a public apology. As I saw the disturbing photos, my voice trailed off. "How did you get these photos? How did you know?" I stared at the pictures, the scenes from back then flashing in my mind constantly. When Simon stood up to identify the girl who falsely accused me of taking the hairpin, she developed a grudge against him. She had a troublesome older brother at another school. So few dared to cross her. During that time, Simon always dressed in layers and wore a mask on his face. When I found bruises on him, he remained silent as I applied ointment. While I was applying it, tears streaming down my face, he awkwardly comforted me, saying, "I'm fine. Really, don't cry. It doesn't hurt at all." One day, as I passed by an alley, I saw that girl's brother stomping on Simon's fingers, making me realize what he had been through all those days. I rushed over without a second thought, pulled the guy away, and asked them to let Simon go. I told them campus security was on the way. Clearly, they didn't believe me, scrutinizing me with a smirk, asking for something in return for releasing him. I struggled, but to no avail, tears rolling down my cheeks. Simon had long lost consciousness. Later, I don't know how Simon managed to retrieve those photos. He hugged me, eyes red from crying, and said hoarsely, "From now on, I will protect you. If you don't delete the post, publicly apologize to me. I can't guarantee these photos won't be leaked." What would your parents think if they saw them? How would the netizens react? My roommate's voice pulled me back from the memories. But how did Tiffany have these photos? How could she possibly know? How did I know? My roommate's voice was neither loud nor soft, but each word hit my heart. "Didn't you already figure it out?" My heart raced and I stared blankly at Simon. He avoided my gaze. I stood there, stunned, murmuring to myself, "Why? You promised to protect me?" Simon turned as white as a sheet in an instant, clutching his roommate's hand, asking why she exposed those photos when he had told her to delete the answers. The roommate said she refused to delete them, and Simon looked shocked. "Simon, are you out of your mind? You were the one who told me about this in the first place. Now you're back to caring about her again?" Simon froze. After a moment, he stiffly turned to me and said, "Melody, believe me, I didn't expect her to do that." I grabbed the coffee cup and angrily aimed it at him. He just stared at me blankly, seemingly unaffected by the attack. I saw my own resentment in his eyes. "Simon, you make me sick." That memory was something I dared not touch, not even in my dreams. These past few years, whenever I saw anything with a bow on it, my whole body would involuntarily shake. I even doubted if Simon had ever truly liked me. Otherwise, why would he gossip about it to others? Maybe the commotion was too loud here, and people around started gossiping. And that girl seemed familiar. Yes, it was Melody, the one who stole someone's boyfriend and ended up being the other woman. Yes, I saw that picture too. Some even started raising their phones to take pictures of me. Simon shouted, "Put those phones away." The people quickly put away their phones and left. "I won't delete it, nor will I apologize," said the roommate. She looked at me in shock. "Aren't you afraid?" I turned the phone on the table over, showing that it was recording. "Once you release those photos, it becomes illegal. I will call the police and give them this recording." The roommate paled, barely managing to say, "Aren't you afraid of others seeing those photos?" I fell silent for a moment. At that time, I was too young, too scared to speak up or let my family know, afraid of their worry, of the gossip, and most of all, of their pitying looks. But then I realized, what was there to be afraid of? It wasn't my fault to be framed or photographed without my consent. Even my own fear that stopped me from reporting it back then wasn't my fault. The fault lies with those ill-intentioned people, those who speak ill of others when it's not their business, and those who use those photos to threaten me. The roommate's face turned ugly. Looking at her, I said what I truly wanted. Using those photos to threaten me is also illegal. "With this recording, I can go to the police now. We're about to graduate. Don't you want to risk being expelled?" The roommate glared at me. "What are you up to?" Without hesitation, I said, "First, give me back those photos. Second, delete the answer with Jason. Third, tell the truth and publicly apologize to me and Jason." Before the roommate could reply, Simon quickly said, "Okay." His lips turned white, eyes filled with mixed emotions. "I'm sorry, Melody." For the next half hour, I watched the roommate delete the answers on her phone and post an apology. The post quickly gained traction. Just as I thought, there was a turnaround. I gathered the photos on the table and asked, "Is that all? All the photos are here." Simon lowered his voice and replied, "Melody, you don't have to be so guarded around me." Ignoring him, I put the photos in my bag and left the cafe. I could hear Simon calling my name from behind, but I didn't turn back. Stepping out of the cafe, I called my cousin, simply saying everything was resolved, not mentioning the photos. After the call, I stood on the roadside for a moment, then was about to hail a cab when a figure emerged from the cafe. It was Jason. In that brief eye contact, Jason also seemed surprised. He nodded at me, and we found a spot outside to sit down. I saw him order a few desserts and asked, "Did you see everything?" Jason seemed to ponder for a moment and nodded. "I was sitting in front of you." I fell silent. "You did a great job just now," he said. "Things wouldn't have gone so smoothly if you hadn't recorded it preemptively. I doubt they expected you to do that." He smiled faintly. "You were described as soft-spoken, but it seems like I wasn't needed here at all." As the server brought the desserts, I took a bite of the pancake. If only I had a tenth of my current courage back then, I wouldn't have let those people bully me. Jason said, "That's not the right way to put it. If the abusers back then could control just a tenth of their malice, they wouldn't have bullied others. If the bystanders could speak up, they wouldn't have caused additional harm to the victim." Looking at me, Jason's eyes were tender and sincere. "That's the right way to put it." I stared at him in a daze. Isn't it the abuser who should be told to behave themselves? It felt like something pricked my heart, and my nose tingled slightly. "Thank you," I heard myself say. After paying the bill, we walked in silence down the street. I tried to bring up a topic. "Heard your girlfriend is a campus belle. With all that's been happening these days, you should really go back and comfort her." He stared at me for a moment, then suddenly smiled. I was a bit puzzled before I could speak. A car suddenly veered out at the intersection, but luckily a big hand around my waist pulled me across. Jason's chest brushed past my ear, and his clear voice came through. "The rumor is false. I don't have a girlfriend." That night, Simon sent me a message saying he saw me and Jason outside, very close. I immediately blocked all his contacts. Never mind if there's anything between me and Jason. Even if there is, he has no right to question me in that tone. During this busy graduation period, I kept shuttling between the library and my dorm room, sometimes even forgetting to eat. Simon suddenly had free time. I don't know if it was intentional or by chance, but every time I came back from the library, I could see him standing below the dorm building, not saying a word, just silently watching me. When I looked over, he'd move his gaze away and leave silently. It seemed like he was just there to steal a glance at me. I thought he was crazy. On the day of taking graduation photos, my roommate didn't show up. I overheard a few girls gossiping quietly. "Did you hear? Tiffany was seriously injured and hospitalized." Of course, it's all over the group chat. They said Tiffany paralyzed a girl in middle school, and the other day, she was stabbed several times when she went out. Yeah, I also heard that it was the girl's grandfather who stabbed Tiffany. Terminal cancer and nothing to lose, just wanted to avenge his granddaughter before he died. What goes around comes around. The return ticket has been booked. I lay on the bed scrolling through my phone when my cousin suddenly messaged me. "Sis, do you want to go camping tomorrow? Someone special will be there too." Of course, I knew he was referring to Jason. After a moment's thought, I politely declined. "I have something to do tomorrow." "Cousin, did you break up with that scumbag Jason and now have a closed heart?" I bluntly replied. "I'm currently not looking for a relationship." Just when I thought my cousin wouldn't say anything more, I got up to pour a glass of water, and he sent a message. "Jason is downstairs at your dorm right now." I almost choked on water and looked out the window. It was raining, with occasional muffled thunder in the background. Without thinking too much, I grabbed an umbrella and hurried downstairs. Walking through the hallway, just a few steps from the dorm entrance, my cousin sent a smug emoji. "You said you weren't interested in him, but now you're already going downstairs to give him an umbrella. right? It dawned on me then, feeling very speechless about his prank. Even if it were you coming over, I would still come down. My cousin burst into tears. What do you mean, even if it were me? Sis, don't you love me anymore? I couldn't be bothered and was about to go upstairs when a familiar voice came from behind. Melody. Simon stood awkwardly in the rain, drenched hair, rainwater all over his face. His pitch-black eyes silently watched me through the rain curtain. What are you doing here? I don't even know why I'm here. Simon's voice sounded somewhat self-deprecating. I heard your girlfriend is critically injured, may not wake up again, and you're not going. Tiffany and I have already broken up. He stared at me intently, as if waiting for my reaction. Suddenly, I felt like laughing and actually did, thinking, you wanted to say you realized you were temporarily misguided and the person you really liked was me, right? Simon, how disgusting of you. He clenched his lips, his eyes murky and indecipherable. Melody, let me explain. What do you want to say? Say how you cheated on me with Tiffany behind my back? Or how you did things with Tiffany in the restroom while I foolishly waited for you in the theater? Or maybe how you used emotional abuse to force me to break up with you? Simon's face turned ghostly white, his lips moving, but nothing came out. You know, you knew these things would hurt me, yet you still did them. I tried to restrain myself, but a tone of bitterness crept into my voice. I just have one question for you. Why did you tell Tiffany about that incident? It took a long time before his hoarse voice came through. I felt extremely guilty and heartbroken after that incident. I told myself to pretend it never happened and that I would protect you in the future. But then I realized I couldn't just forget about it. I hate myself for not protecting you back then. His eyes were bloodshot, rain or tears streaming down his face. Every time I touched you, every time I saw you reluctantly, but still accepting, I would think of that incident. Imagine if those people's hands had also touched your body, like mine did. I was in pain and jealous. After Tiffany appeared, I slowly distanced myself from you and grew closer to her. I always thought that if I tried to accept her, maybe I could slowly forget about you and that unbearable memory. 6 months ago, Tiffany confessed to me, even showed me that photo of you and Jason. I thought, or maybe I was forcing myself to believe, that you had betrayed me first. That night, I drank a lot and told her about that incident. By the end, his voice was filled with a crying tone. Melody, I regret it. I really regret it. He actually knelt down right in front of me, begging for forgiveness. Please forgive me, okay? A strong sense of bitterness washed over me. Not because I was sad, not because he stirred something in me, but a kind of indescribable sadness. In that moment, I realized he never loved me, nor Tiffany. He only loved himself. He cared so much about that incident, yet never showed it. He changed his heart, covetously enjoyed the thrill of cheating, and controlled the feeling of fooling me. For the past 6 months, whenever he said he didn't like me, I wouldn't cling to him. He doesn't love me, yet he refuses to let me go. He's no longer the sincere boy from my memories, the one who would make me blush. I still appreciate him for standing up for me and proving I wasn't a thief. But if I could start over, I'd rather he didn't intervene. Maybe he and I were a mistake from the very beginning. In the end, I turned away and vowed to never look at him again. My words icy, saying forgiveness would only come upon his death. Don't come looking for me anymore. I never want to see you again in my life. After that day, Simon never showed up in front of me again. After graduation, I landed a job in my field. Jason and my cousin worked in the same city as me, and for the past few years, we occasionally hung out on weekends. Recently, Jason's company sent him overseas for a year-long project. As I watched Jason's back disappear into the bustling airport, I felt a tinge of sadness. My cousin's voice echoed with regret, wondering why unmarried people like us couldn't give it a try. Now that he's gone, I glanced at him lightly, saying nothing. What he didn't know was that Jason and I had tried for 2 months. One night when my cousin was on a business trip to Beijing, I fell ill with acute gastroenteritis. In a daze, I called Jason. Waking up in a hospital bed, I found Jason by my side, who had stayed with me the whole night. During that time, Jason took care of me, picking me up from work every day and cooking together. After spending more time together, we unofficially became a couple. 2 months into our relationship, I learned about Jason's year-long overseas work plan. After much thought, I decided to break up with him. That night, Jason's actions abruptly stopped, looking at me with a slightly hoarse voice, asking why. I turned my head instinctively, calmly saying that I didn't believe in long-distance relationships, let alone long-distance ones in different countries. The bond I had with Simon since childhood, the years of connection. If he could change, what more with Jason, whom I had only been dating for 2 months? It wasn't that I didn't trust him, but I feared giving my all would still result in imperfection. Jason turned my face, leaning closer, asking if I didn't want him to go. Enduring a tingling sensation in my body, I shook my head lightly, saying it was a great opportunity not worth giving up for anyone, including myself. Jason remained silent for a long time before softly agreeing. That night, even though he was good at hiding his emotions, I could still feel his loss of control. After Jason left, my life didn't change much. I received news about Simon. He had gone to the mountains after graduation and was recently injured by falling rocks, making it difficult for him to move around. His mother mentioned that he really wanted to see me. My mom asked tentatively, "Did you see him?" Without hesitation, I replied, "No, I don't want to see him." I'm not sure if my mom relayed the message to him, but for over 10 days during the Lunar New Year, Simon and I lived on the same street and never ran into each other. The years that followed were similar. 6 months later, my cousin had a sudden wedding. As the bride tossed the bouquet, I had just finished a call with Jason. Oddly enough, despite the breakup, Jason and I remained in contact. He would often share funny stories from abroad, wish me goodnight according to my time zone, send gifts on holidays, and help me with work issues. It felt like nothing had changed since we broke up. Lost in thought, something was suddenly thrown in front of me. I instinctively bent down and saw that it was the bouquet, which left me perplexed and amused. Then I heard Jason's deep voice. "Melody?" I jerked upright, but when I checked my phone, the call had already ended. The crowd around us started joking, with my cousin being the loudest. It suddenly hit me. I looked into the distance. Jason was standing amidst the noisy crowd, hands in his coat pockets, gazing calmly at me. After all these years, the way he looked at me was the same as before. As he walked towards me slowly, a mixture of astonishment and surprise washed over me. Wasn't it supposed to be a year? The project was completed ahead of time. He chuckled casually, pulled me into his arms, rested his chin on my shoulder, and said, "Melody, I've missed you a lot." Feeling the comforting presence of his being, I realized something in a sudden moment. Time and distance were never the issue. Determination and affection were. If you really like someone and are determined enough, even with a tight schedule, you'll make time. And even with challenges, you'll find a way to overcome them. If you're truly important to him, both he and time will be on your side. Before long, I got married too. When Jason and I exchanged rings, my cousin's hands were almost sore from clapping.